guys, does anyone want to tell me what next Friday is? Yes, next Friday is Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is next Friday, February 14th. And I'm so excited. It's gonna be so fun. We don't have school. So today, since Valentine's Day is next week, we're gonna be reading a story today about Valentine's Day. But before we read our story, I would like to go over some vocabulary words that are going to be seen throughout our story, so that when these words appear in the story, we know what they mean and we can define them. Okay, so we have 3 important vocabulary words that are going to be seen across the story. So our first one is a secret admirer, and I bet a lot of you do know what a secret admirer is. Could you raise your hand and I'll call on you if you think you know what a secret admirer is? Yes, it could be someone that hides from you. Yes, so those are all great definitions. So what I've got is it's someone who likes you, but they keep it a surprise. They don't want to tell you. It could be because they're too shy or they just want to keep it a secret. So we'll see secret admirer. Our next word is disguise. I bet a lot of you know what that means too. If you know what that means, raise your hand. Yes, those are all great. All right, so I have disguise as something that a person wears or uses to hide their identity or to make them look like something or someone else. So disguise can be like on Halloween when you like wear a Superman costume and you disguise yourself as a different character or a princess. You're not yourself, you look like someone else, so you're disguised. And our last word is disappointment, and I bet a lot of us have heard this word before. We've all probably felt this. But disappointment is the feeling of sadness or unhappiness when something doesn't go as expected. So, like when your mom tells you you can't get a lollipop at the grocery store, you probably feel disappointed. Like you really wanted that and you expected her to say yes, but it didn't happen that way. Okay, so we'll see secret admirer, disguise, and disappointment in our story today. So look out for those words. They're going to be very important to us. So today, this lesson is going to be focused on retelling. We're going to use key details in the story to retell it later on with some activities. So does anyone know what retell means? Could you raise your hand and I'll call on you? Yes, it could mean to tell something again. Yes, great job. Okay, so retelling is when we put a story in our own words to tell it from the beginning to the end. So we focus on the beginning, middle, and end of a story to retell it in our own words. And then we have key details. Does anyone know what key details are? Yes, they're important things. Yes. So key details are the most important parts of the story. So they're going to be like the big parts of the story that we're going to want to focus on. So like, let's see, a key detail in the story The 3 Little Pigs is when the wolf blows down the 3 Little Pigs' house. That's a key detail. So today we're going to focus on key details in our story to help then retell it later on. So as we read, we're going to be looking for the key details to help us retell. Okay, so today we're going to be storytellers. I know that's super exciting. Have you ever told your friend about a movie or a book or a show that you've watched? Yeah, you have, but I bet you didn't tell it from the ending, did you? No, we always tell things in the order in which they happened because that makes more sense. So we don't start out telling our friends what happened at the end. We always start at the beginning, and then we go in order of what happened. So that is basically retelling. So we're going to be storytellers today, and we're going to focus on the beginning, middle, and end of our story to then retell it. So our big question today is, how do readers put important story events in order to retell a story? And then by the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to say, I can use key details to retell a story. Okay, I'm going to say that and y'all are going to repeat it after me. I can use key details to retell a story. Great job, awesome. So now we are going to look at our book. We've got Turkey's Valentine Surprise by Wendy Silvano. So based on this cover, what do you guys think this book is going to be about? Raise your hand and I'll call on you. Yes, it could be about winter. Yes, animals, Valentine's, all those things. There's lots of fun little characters in the story that we're going to focus on. So I think in this story, Turkey is going to disguise himself. So we're going to have to focus on our key details as Turkey disguises himself, figure out why he does that, what he's disguising himself for, to then retell our story in just a little bit. So when we read our story, we're focusing on the key details, which are the most important parts in our story, to then later retell it using our own words, the beginning, middle, and end of the story. And that is it. Now I'll read my story to my class. So after I do the introduction of the lesson, I'm going to tell students that throughout the book, I'm going to be asking some questions, and this is just to make sure students are comprehending. So I've made intentional stopping points and used sticky notes and wrote the questions on there just so that I can see them when I come to them and I won't forget. So I would read the story to the students, and let's see, I'll explain it to you so that you understand how the retelling should go. So at the very beginning, Turkey gets a Valentine from a secret admirer, and he gets really excited because he now wants to be a secret admirer and give his friends a Valentine. So he decides that to do this, he's going to dress up and disguise himself as something. So as I would come across the word disguise, I would point that out to students because that was one of our vocabulary words, just so they see it in the text. So he says, I found the idea. He finds out like what he wants to be to disguise himself. So I ask students, I'll say, how do you think Turkey is going to disguise himself? And students will give various answers of what they think he's going to use or do to disguise himself. Then they find out that he disguises himself as a cat, and he's going to give his friend Rooster the Valentine. It ends up that Rooster figures out that it's Turkey and it's not a cat. So Turkey's a little disappointed. And so Turkey decides now that he's going to disguise himself as a dog and give a Valentine to another one of his friends. So on this page, I have the question, do you think Horse will know that it is Turkey dressed up? So he's giving a Valentine to Horse next. So students are having to predict if they think Horse will figure out if it's Turkey. So on the next page, Horse does figure out that it's Turkey. So students will see that. Turkey then decides that he's going to dress up as a toad and give a Valentine to his friend Cal. This also doesn't go as planned. Cal figures out that it's Turkey. He falls, and of course he's then disappointed because his surprise didn't go as planned. So then Cal gives him the idea that he should disguise himself as an owl to give a Valentine to his friends Pig and Sheep. So he disguises himself as an owl. They swing him in the barn from a rope, and it says Turkey swung left, Turkey swung right. He was almost there. Achoo! I'll ask students, what do you think is going to happen to Turkey? So they're going to have to predict what they think is going to happen to him based off the pictures. You'll see that he's probably going to fall down. Thump. Turkey does fall down. Students are excited because their predictions are right normally. Turkey is disappointed again and sad because Pig and Sheep figured out that it was him and his surprise didn't work. Everyone still loves his Valentines that he gives, and they think they're so thoughtful and clever. So of course, there's our word disappointment. I'd point that out to students. Turkey saw a heart that gave him one last idea. That's it, screeched Turkey. I've got to hurry. The Valentine's dance starts in just 2 hours. And so students will see this picture of Turkey like making something. So my question is, what do you think Turkey is going to surprise his friends with? So students said something like, one person actually did predict what was going to happen, but they all said like, he's going to make them something. He's going to bake them some food. And on the next page, he gets to deliver his secret surprise while no one is there yet. And then at the very end, you see his surprise and it says, "I love you all to pizzas from a secret admirer." So he had baked them a bunch of pizzas to surprise them at the dance. And it says, "Everyone was delighted with the delicious pizza. Turkey couldn't keep from smiling. 'No one will ever know it was me,' he said. 'This is the most clever Valentine's surprise ever.'" So his surprise did work, and he was happy at the very end. My last question to students says, "How do you think Turkey feels at the end of the story?" So students will raise their hand to be called on. Most of them said he was happy. And then I'll discuss to the students at the very beginning, Turkey was excited to get a Valentine from a secret admirer, but once his plan didn't go as he had planned, then he was very disappointed because nothing happened the way he expected. And at the very end, students figured out that he was excited and he was happy to be able to finally surprise his friends. So once we were finished reading the story, I'll say, "So can anyone raise their hand and tell me what it means to retell?" This just allows students to, once again, give a definition of retelling, since that is what the lesson's focused on. So students will raise their hands and they'll tell me what it means to retell. And they did say stuff like using your own words to say a story again. And so I would say, "Great job. Retelling is when we do tell a story in our own words from the beginning to the end. So now we're going to do an activity using retelling sticks. And we're going to retell the story in the order that the events occurred." So I'll tell the students that they are going to have to raise their hand and be called on to answer a question. If they're called on, they're going to be given a retelling stick to then go hold up in front of the classroom. The students will stand in order in which the event occurred down the front of the classroom. So let's see. I have all of these retelling sticks of everything that happened throughout the story. So I'll support the students and prompt them to retell the story, just because kindergarten needs support with lots of things. So as I provide sentence stems for them verbally, then they are able to comprehend and retell the story in their own words. So I would say, "Who received a Valentine first?" Students will raise their hand. I'll call on a student that's raising their hand and sitting quietly, and they answered, "Turkey received a Valentine's first." So I'll give that student Turkey, and they will go stand in the front of the room at the very beginning to indicate this is what happened first. So we have this student first in the line. Then I'll say, "Turkey then dresses up as a," and then hopefully they'll say cat. If they don't, I'll say cat. "And he gives a Valentine to who?" I will call on another student. They will answer rooster. It was the next character to receive a Valentine, and they will go stand next to Turkey. Also, as I'm doing this, I am going back in the book to refer to the illustrations. So when Turkey received one, they'll see that it was Turkey, the first one. And then when I say, "And who received one next?" I'll flip to that page of who received a Valentine next. They'll see it was rooster. This helps them visually see the retelling of the story. So for the third one, Turkey then dresses up as a dog, and he gives a Valentine's to, I'll call on a student. They'll see that it's horse, and they'll say horse. Say, "Great job. Horse was next in our story." And then they will go stand again next to the event. I will go down the line and do all of this using the sentence stems for students and flipping back through the book so they can visually see. At the very end of the story, Turkey does finally get to do his surprise, but I don't have a retelling stick for that. So at the very end, I would just say, at the end of the story, Turkey decided the best way to surprise his friends was to, and then they'll all say, throw a pizza party or surprise them with pizzas, just so that they do see the end of the story, even though that there's physically not a stick up there for the end of the story. So once all the students are lined up at the front of the room, we are going to go down the line, and I'll point to the student at the very beginning, and I'll say, Turkey gets a Valentine from a secret admirer. Then I'll go to the next student. They'll say, he disguises himself as a cat. And then I'll go to the next student. They'll say, and he gives a Valentine's to Rooster. And then the next one, Turkey disguises himself as and they'll say dog. And then I'll go to the next student and gives a Valentine to, the next student will say horse. So then they will be able to verbally retell and physically hold up that character. So once finished with the retelling verbally with support from the teacher, I'm going to indicate the beginning, middle, and end as the students are standing up at the front. So I will go to our first person who is holding up Turkey, and I'll say, this is the beginning. Turkey received a Valentine from a secret admirer. The middle was all of our characters that received a Valentine. So I will point to all of the characters that received a Valentine, and then I'll say, the end was when Turkey got to surprise his friends with a pizza party. Just so students can see beginning, middle, and end of a story as another way of retelling. Okay, so I'll say, great job, everyone. Now we're going to go back to our seats, and we're going to walk. We are going to practice again retelling with a fun little activity. So I'll have students give me back their retelling sticks. They will walk quietly to their seats, sit down, and placed at their seats, I have already put a sequencing strip at their desk, along with a little pizza heart that has 1st through the 6th. So I will tell students that we are now going to sequence and retell using a fun little activity. I'm going to tell them that first we're going to use our scissors to cut out each of these events. And then when you're done, wait for my directions. So as students are cutting out these, I will also be cutting out to model so students can see me doing it so they know what they're supposed to be doing as well. Let's see. I'm going to tell students that we're going to place them in order from what happened first to the last. I'm going to tell students, make sure we're raising our hand. If I call on you, please answer. So first, and then who came first in the story? Students will raise their hand and tell me. Turkey. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to say, all right, everyone hold up their turkey. As I'm holding up my little turkey sequence event, they're going to hold up theirs as well. So they see who came first. I will instruct them to glue it on number 1, since that is the beginning. The first thing that happened was Turkey received a Valentine. I will continue to go throughout all of the characters. Like, for example, next, Turkey dresses up as a cat and gives a Valentine's to. A student will raise their hand. I'll call on them, and they will indicate that Rooster was next. I'll hold up my rooster. Everyone, let me see a rooster. Hold him up high. We will all then glue rooster on number 2. So this will continue out through all of the events. Teacher is modeling as students are doing it. And then once all of the events are in order, we will once again go through all of the events. I will say, first, Turkey received a Valentine from a secret admirer. Then he dresses up as a cat and he gives a Valentine's to Rooster, and so on and so forth. Let's see. So now once their hearts are completed, we are now going to actually build a turkey from the story, which is a fun, engaging way to get students to have a little fun with this activity. So let's see. I'm going to hand out the pieces to the Valentine one by one because kindergarten can only handle so many things at one time. So first I handed out a yellow piece of paper to all the students. I tell them to write their name on the back, and I will also be modeling at the board. I'll have my paper at the board while they have theirs at their desk. So they'll have their paper, And I will have this is the head of the turkey. I'll have all of them get one of these. So they have their yellow paper and they have the head. And then this is also going to be posted at the board so that students can see, and also I can see like which piece goes where to help me. I will glue the head on the yellow paper, and then I'll hold it up for all students to see. And then they will glue it where I glued it as well. Then I'll hand out our next piece, which is the eyes. I tell students that they are going to need to cut their eyes out along the outline of the black, and then we are going to wait for my directions to see where I glue it, and then they will glue it where I indicate them. So I first model where to put the eyes on here, and then I say, all right, everyone hold up their eyes, show me your eyes. They will show me their eyes, and then they'll glue it on the head. Our next piece is the beak. The beak is already cut out, so I will hand them all a beak. And I say, all right, everyone, hold up your beak. So then I make sure all students are with me and they can see which piece we're doing and where to put it. I will show them that I put the beak right underneath the eyes, and I'll glue it first, and then I'll have students glue their beak. So I'll do the rest of the steps, the gobbler thing, the waddle, and then the hat as well. Teacher is first modeling, and then students do it on their own. Once the turkey is completed, I will say, all right, everyone, let's take about 5 to 10 minutes and we're going to color our pizzas. Students will then get their crayons out and they'll color their pizza, whatever color they feel like looks best. So they'll do that. As they're doing that, I'm walking around, monitoring students' progress, making sure that their events are all in order. They don't have any questions. And so just make sure that their turkey looks good, and just to make sure everyone's, doing what they're supposed to be doing. So once we're finished with that, I'll tell students, all right, let's start cleaning up. The students will start throwing trash away and cleaning up all their materials and things. I'll say, once you're finished cleaning up, I want you to walk back to your seat on your letter spot and sit down quietly and wait for further directions. So students will be seated back at the rug. I'll be there with them. And then this is kind of the wrap up or the closure of our lesson. I said, so today we learned how to put key details in order to retell a story in our own words. My favorite part of the story was when Turkey tried to walk on all 4 feet, even though he's a turkey, and it doesn't work like that. I just think that was super funny and a great part of the story. So as I just modeled my favorite part of the story and retelling it in my own words, I'm going to say, all right, now friends, I want everyone to think in their head their favorite part of the story, and you are going to turn to a partner and you're going to retell your favorite part of the story to your partner. So I'll have students think in their head their favorite part. Then I'll have them turn and talk to a friend to retell their favorite part of the story. As students are doing this, I'm listening to make sure that they're using complete sentences and just honestly being appropriate with it. So as I listened, I did hear a few students not using actually, it was like 1 or 2 students that didn't use a complete sentence. So I said, all right, friends, now let's wrap it up. Let's come back to the front. Can someone raise their hand and tell me what their favorite part of the story was? As they do this, they're retelling using complete sentences because I modeled that first. I called on a student who then said, my favorite part of the story was also when Turkey tried to walk on 4 feet to give a Valentine to one of his friends. So they showed usage of complete sentences, and then I called on another student who said, yeah, my favorite part was the same. So then I had to further instruct that student to use complete sentences by prompting them saying, why did you like that part the best? Or did you find that part funny? Who did he give that Valentine's to when he dressed up as a dog? Just to help that student use a complete sentence to answer the question and retell in their own words. So once we're finished with that, I will say thank you guys so much for participating and being such great listeners and retelling a story with me. Can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you enjoy this lesson? Students will then give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. All students gave a thumbs up because they were great for this lesson and they listened actively and did as I told them to. So that was the end of the lesson. And then students are able to take home their turkeys and show them to their parents. That's it.